On, folks, we're going to take a look at the markets and a couple different stocks today. Yesterday was a good day for raising fear in the markets. The S&P, the SPY yesterday was down 4.3%, $17.87. Today is the 14th of September. Yesterday's trading day was the 13th. Looks like they used I believe it was CPI news to bring the markets down. So they used a news event to do that. Usually market action, they correlate with some kind of news. Quite interesting how they rallied the market into all of that just to reverse it. So you can see how investors get very frustrated with market action if they don't have some kind of a trusted system or models they follow. Just trading off emotions will not work for the long term, to say the least. The market rallied from 390 to 411 in 4 days just to come all the way back down to 393. So crazy volatility. So looking at the SPY here, so far we still have consecutive higher lows. So we put in a major low over here on the looks like the 17th of June. Another higher low here on the 14th of July. And then so far anyway, the 6th of September is still a higher low. Yesterday's action, big gap down in the market. Huge gap down in the market. Gaps get filled. So a gap above the market, which is what we have currently, indicates that we will get a rally at some point, and that will close that open price gap there. And the same with the downside. We actually have a gap down here in the market in the 380 level that could get closed as well. So we'll see. Pretty good capitulation yesterday across the markets. We'll jump into some crypto as well, but you'll see that. So we'll see if they fill this gap down in here or not. Sometimes you'll get I've seen this, you'll get a massive down move just to be followed by the opposite of a massive up move. The full moon was on Saturday, I believe, the 10th. So sometimes the markets bottom around that. So perhaps that was what we saw yesterday. We'll see what happens. The VIX had a nice day yesterday. The CNN Fear and Greed Index isn't really that into the fear. I think it's around 42. The market sentiment is definitely going to be increased. Probably not this week, because since it comes out, I believe it's today or last night, that yesterday's action won't be into that. That'll be into next week's. But so far, this uptrend is still underway, as much as people think that the end of the world is coming. We'll see what happens here. So that's my thoughts on SPY. Takeaways: we have a huge gap above the market. What does that tell us? That tells us that at some point, market's going to rally strong and fill that gap. Looks like we have a very small gap up in here as well. Also one down here. So we'll see what happens. Let's take a look at the VIX. See if we can get that to pop up there. So the S&P Volatility Index. Big day yesterday for the VIX. VIX was looking good, looking quite bullish, as in bearish for the VIX, bullish for the market. And then we obviously had yesterday, which flipped the cards, at least for now. Below the market, big old gap in the VIX. And just as we mentioned in the SPY, gaps get filled. So a gap below the market in the VIX would indicate that the VIX gets crushed. And the opposite of that is the market, the stock market will rally. Market usually moves in the opposite direction of the VIX. So keep that in mind as, the world's going to end, blah, blah, blah. The VIX will fill this gap at some point, which indicates that the stock market will go north, which is to the upside. So that's the VIX. In the short term, who knows? We could rally here. We'll see. There's a lot of fear yesterday. A lot of stops were ran. Just look across the news sources. Different sources were talking about, fear and all this stuff. And as Mr. Warren Buffett says, you have to be greedy when others are fearful. And yesterday was a little bit of fear, to say the least. Let's take a look at the TQQQs. So this is a leveraged product that basically follow the QQQ. I believe it's a 3X product. So we have a gap in the market. And where's that gap? Well, that gap is above the market a lot. So it looks like 28 or so, 30, something along those lines, is a nice gap above the market. So as we just mentioned, gaps get filled. So this indicates to me at some point we will see a rally in the TQQQs. And in prior videos, we had mentioned that we have some more gaps up here. Look at that, way up there in the 50s. So these will get filled as well, guys. So keep your eye on the long term. The sun will shine again. Sometimes you just have to have more patience. Then other times, they don't always make it easy. It's not always easy to make big money in the markets. You have to kind of do what the crowd is not willing to do. So TQQQs, we'll see if this low breaks, if it's a shakeout, and then we rally. But keep in mind, keep your eye on the prize. And at some point, again, you'll see this gap get filled. Looks like we have a very potential small gap up in here into the 34 range. And we have gaps up in here in the 50s. And it looks like that might be the highest gaps I can kind of just see here from a rough look. Let's look at Soxal, which is a semi 3X. As well here, we have a big old gap up in here, 13. You basically have an island top right here. These two trading days along themselves, big old gap up in here. And I'm sure there is some more gaps in Soxal as you look higher. Let's take a look at, take a look at Tesla for fun. See what's going on with Tesla. The chart is very busy here. We're going to turn all that stuff off. Tesla actually looking like it held up quite well yesterday. Again, as most stocks, you'll see big gap in the market for Tesla, which will get filled. Tesla at some point is going to break above this looks like 314, and it's probably going to rocket out of there. That's my opinion. Let's look at Apple. Apple got crushed yesterday. Yeah. Nice rally, though, off the bottom here. 129 to 175-ish. Yeah, we'll see here. Let's look at the was it DIA is the Dow Jones ETF. Dow Jones ETF, DIA, big gap up in here. Let's look at ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil, not too bad. Not too bad here. Let's go back to the SPY. So if you don't watch the S&P, so that would be the S&P 500, the ES futures, you can watch them trade before and after the normal market hours open. So if you go to like probably any of the major brokerage websites, you could probably get futures quotes, maybe something like Bloomberg or investors.com, I believe is the website. Not quite sure. And I say that because I don't watch the futures on that. I watch the futures on trading platforms. So I use a trading platform called Tastyworks. The guys at Tasty Trade started it. It's called Tastyworks. I believe I have a link. If not, I will leave one in the below the video. Anyways, I watch the up-to-date futures quotes in there, so you can kind of get an idea of where the market is going to open for the day, many hours before the actual 9:30 Eastern market open. So I would, if you don't know anything about futures trading, I would recommend learning. They have micro futures products, which are smaller products, allow the barrier. It's the barrier to entry to trade leverage is much lower than the full size contracts. Check those out. Do some searching about futures. You can go to Tasty Trade, to the research tab, I believe, and you can learn about futures. You can learn about futures on Investopia. You can do searches on YouTube. You can leave a comment and I will send you some links of different areas to learn. Highly suggest learning. I believe the S&P futures are probably one of the most traded products in the market, the most liquid. So that's my takeaway here. Yesterday was a big fear day. We'll see if today they add some fear and then turn the market around. Do they crush it lower and fill this gap? Or do they just, or was that it? And then we were off to the races. We'll see. The S&P futures are up a little bit. They were up 20 something a little while ago. They were fading. So who knows? But prices are a lot cheaper than they were 2 days ago. So Mr. Buffett says, be greedy when others are fearful. All right, guys, take it easy. Let me know your thoughts down in the market comments. Keep your head on your shoulders during these times. If you have your head stuck in the news outlets, that is a tough place to be, especially when it comes into making financial decisions. If you think yesterday was bad, which it definitely wasn't the greatest day, unless you are looking to buy stocks on sale, then it was a fantastic day. We were much lower, much lower in June. So keep in perspective that, yeah, the market's down, but the market's up from June. Let's see, the SPY is from the June lows is still up about 8 or so percent. Market's down, market's up 8% since June. So, and the sentiment was much better in June. So a lot of people were buying down in here and then locked in a lot of their profits. And if sentiment gets much better, looking to re-enter the market. All right, guys, share your thoughts and comments down below. All right, take care.